Shut your mouth! The linguinis.
So at the beginning of September, I went to see the new Conjuring movie. You can tell from all these posters I have that were pawned off on me from my group because I did not like the IMAX lettering. I can't really blame them. I'm not the world's biggest fan, but I do like the first two Conjuring movies, and I thought Annabelle Comes Home was fun. My biggest criticism up to this point was probably just that some of the movies, like The Nun and The Nun 2, were just kind of boring. I do remember them somewhat returning to form with The Devil Made Me Do It, so I was excited to catch the last Conjuring film in theaters. The Smurl family case is also admittedly very unsettling, even if I don't personally believe it was due to a haunting. But unfortunately, this movie was probably one of the worst I've seen in a very long time. I found myself laughing at a lot more than I probably should have, and then eventually it got too drawn out to do even that. It was not a satisfying wrap in my opinion, and this movie's use of paranormal elements was probably the most convoluted and jumbled addition to the franchise yet, which is saying something. Quickly though, I do want to include a little bit of a disclaimer. First of all, I had an absolutely terrible theater experience. I went on opening night and the first showing even available in my area, and I just didn't expect theater etiquette to be so bad, but maybe that was on me. That said, I still did genuinely try my best to pay attention and engross myself in the movie, even, overlooking the phone call taking place a row ahead of me. I also want to make it known that I'm not a fan of the Warrens. I like the setting their house provides in the movies, same with the artifact room, and I guess I like their family dynamic. That's as far as my admiration goes. And finally, if you enjoyed this movie, I'm genuinely happy for you, and you don't need to hear me whine about it if you already know we disagree. I do want to be fair here, okay? I'm going to start the video off with things I did like. First thing I can think of was Lorraine's birth scene. I like how the story opened. It hit me hard, and I kind of thought we were going somewhere else. I like the tone it set right off the bat. I'll give him that. It was tense, it was heartbreaking, and this idea that something has been attached to Judy her entire life was compelling. I also probably like the design of the demon character the most in this entire film. Watching it crawl towards the baby was definitely freaky. Then there was the set design for the Warren and the Small family's homes. I already said this, but I do love the design of the Warren's homes that these movies take place in, like the time period, and I think the artifact room is genuinely impressive. And the Small family, it was giving Home Alone, okay, with all its kids. It felt like a real family in a real house, and I think I felt more of a connection towards the mom or the daughters in the movie, the Small family, than I did in the Warrens, unfortunately. Next we have a kind of VHS effect that I thought was very cool. The most effective scenes for me were in the first quarter of this movie. Janet's experience with the phone cord and the basement were very creepy. I think my favorite scene from the entire film was when we watched Heather rewind the VHS tape over and over again, trying to get a glimpse of this spirit she thinks she captured on camera, as we see this demon and its glowing eyes appear above her over the TV. I guess I just like the demon they went with as opposed to the more human-like spirits for some reason. That's just personal preference. I also like that we got another Judy movie. I always thought that Judy was an underutilized / underrated character in the franchise, and I was really excited to see that we were following her story kind of mainly in this movie. I definitely wish McKenna Grace was able to come back though, and I might have thought Judy, who we see in the trailer, was just one of the Smurl family children. Then we have the casual, Queen reference and Ben Hardy being there. This one's stupid, but as a Queen and ex-biopic lover, I appreciated both Ben Hardy and the Queen poster that Dawn has above her bed. I'm gonna complain about CGI here in a minute, but I did actually like the glass shattering scene, again with the Smile family. I like Dawn and Heather a lot, I found. We see Dawn pull glass shards out of her throat, and yes, maybe it could have been done a little bit better, but I liked it. It wasn't necessarily scary, I guess, for me, but it was emotional and impactful, and I guess it was a good way to show how the haunting went from, scary to malicious. Acting from the Smurl family and the Warrens were very good. I'm personally of the belief that Patrick and Vera have more or less so been carrying this franchise on their back. Out of everybody in the movie though, Heather's actor Keela Lord Cassidy was probably my favorite. The characters of Heather and Dawn had a natural sibling-like chemistry, and I'm happy that we followed them out of all the small children. The kids in these movies make you feel something, if nothing else. And lastly, I am just, a bitch for a mother/daughter movie. I love Bring Her Back, and I'm all for a rise of mom/daughter representation, I guess, in horror. If you have any good recommendations, feel free to leave those down below. I didn't exactly like how the story wrapped up, but I did like to see Lorraine and Judy's relationship evolve throughout the movie. I just wish that we got a little bit more focus on them. Next, we have things I didn't like. I'm still gonna try to be a little bit generous here. First up, we have the marriage plotline. Now, I understand that Judy getting married and Tony Sparrow, I think, being introduced felt like a natural conclusion, and I'm sure a lot of people saw this coming. That said, why did we need to see them get married for a wrap-up? The Artifact Museum was handed, I think, to Tony Sparrow after Ed's passing, but Lorraine still owned it, and I'm pretty sure she still, worked there. So this wasn't written for accuracy. If I'm being honest, the wedding seemed like a kind of secondary, scare-heavy through line that they gave us throughout the entire film, and it kind of just dragged. The engagement was fine, I guess, and after they had the near-death experience at the hands of a mirror, I thought that the passing of keys at the end of the movie symbolized enough of a handoff here. I got the point. I didn't really need to see the wedding. I know a lot of people were also happy to see the rest of the cast from other Conjuring films there. Kind of wish that maybe they could have incorporated them in a different way, but that's just me. Thinking about it, I feel like the Warren family specifically would have made a better drama/thriller series, and they would have continued to separate the cases like they did with The Haunting in Connecticut. Next up, we had the pacing. I mentioned the wedding already, but there are many parts of the film that aside that I felt could have been, cut up a little bit for brevity. It seemed as if we were kind of watching 2 to 3 different movies at a time here. And after watching Weapons recently and seeing somebody do that kind of very well, I just don't have the most capacity to overlook it right now. The first bit of the movie with all of the Smurl family scenes were probably my favorite. This family and setting was probably my favorite out of all of the Conjuring movies that I've seen, at least. Unfortunately though, we only focus on the Smurl family for maybe a fourth of this film, and it's all the way in the beginning. It feels like we have a limited time to actually explore the haunting, and it's just a family story. I'm still confused on how Judy is even connected to the Smurls, but I don't even think I have the capacity to get into that. There's just a lot of filler for a case that I actually thought was pretty interesting, and I feel like they underutilized what they had. They could have done better for this family story, and I think there was a clear struggle in trying to incorporate what actually happened with the, theatrical Warren family that we all love now. So much so that their own daughter didn't even really feel like a natural part of the script. I didn't really like the demons or the spirits either. The existence of the demons and the spirits were, introduced poorly. I wish they went with an even more ambiguous backstory, because trying to explain it just felt convenient. The way that Lorraine stands on the front porch staring off into the distance after catching a glimpse of a spirit in a basement and selling hands and having this whole backstory, it made me laugh. This is what I was talking about earlier when I said I laughed at things that I probably shouldn't have. And sometimes I enjoy that. That wasn't this. If I'm thinking back, we usually get shown spirits or whatever through Lorraine's visions, or even having her tell a more coherent story. We weren't just shown a couple of shadows and then a black screen to convey to the audience how Lorraine's powers work. That being said, I do honestly prefer the shadowy apparitions / horrible creatures that we're getting instead of the scare actor look. We have what I have only written as that stupid Lock It Pocket song. Lorraine influencing Judy to not interact with the paranormal made sense for this movie and this movie alone, especially since the child flashback character we see of Judy seems to be younger than the character that McKenna Grace had even played in Annabelle Comes Home. Because back in 2019, we watched Judy Warren snoop through her family's things and, battle Annabelle on her own. I guess it's something that's supposed to come down to a suspension of belief thing, but it's frustrating. I just don't understand why we need to see her channel this nursery rhyme to gain the strength that we've seen her have throughout the entire franchise. It just kind of feels like if you're paying attention to the movies and the story they're trying to tell, it actually is like kind of a punishment at the end of the day. And finally, this could probably even be in things I hated a little bit, but it was the animal abuse scene. So I did have an idea of the small family history, and I kind of, I guess, was expecting to see something along these lines. But when you're an hour and 50 minutes in, you kind of just don't expect to see the family dog, get slammed into a wall for a scare factor. Sorry, for some shock value, probably. I'm not even somebody who really goes out of my way to avoid animal abuse or harm in films, but in the theater, I just had this wave of disgust. It kind of just made me sit there and think about how this real dog that they really had was either wrapped up in this story or abused in that home. Allegedly. And now finally we're at the part of the video where I get to talk about things I hated. Yay. First on the chopping block, worst offender, probably in my opinion, was the CGI. I should have expected this. Genuinely, I should have. The Conjuring films are something I call action horror, but they use CGI for very simple practical effects, and instead of it being a very simple, blood drip, it was very simply corny. I don't expect the huge action-packed endings to be anything but CGI, but a blood drip? I'm sorry, a blood drip? Why do we even need CGI for that? I also think they dropped the ball really hard with that sink full of blood. If we watched Lorraine stick her hand into this pool of blood to pull out the locket, I think it would have been a lot more impactful. Do you guys think ghosts are real, or do you think I'm just bad at setting up my equipment? Even if they had to edit the locket in post so that we could see Judy's picture more clearly, I would have much preferred that to the red wine spillage that we did get. I was trying to think about why this even bothered me. Clearly, I guess I like practical effects compared to CGI, but I can't articulate fully why that is. I was thinking about other movies with these bloody practical effects that I do like, and obviously The Substance came to mind, but I was thinking way back, and I remembered in the 2017 remake of It, the character Beverly experiences an absolute bloodbath, all coming up through her bathroom sink's drain. The blood spatter falling on the camera makes you feel immersed in this world, in this room with Beverly, and we watch as her father comes in and asks her what's wrong, as if he can't see that she's dripping in blood and literally can't get up from the floor because it's slick with blood. These scenes have a somewhat similar premise, and although I don't think CGI is entirely to blame, one is extremely effective, and the other blends into the sea of insequential shock value that won't stick with the character, let alone the audience. Practical effects can just bring us one step closer to that character. It's easier to get into the psyche as an actor, and I'm just disappointed by the use of CGI for such simple, easy practical effects. The next thing I hated was Giga Annabelle, or just Annabelle in general. Again, I understand that they probably wanted Annabelle to have one last cameo before the series wrap, but in my opinion, it was so very unnecessary. Having a doll leave scraps of paper as a threat was just never something I could get behind, and it was very corny compared to the other scares they were trying to accomplish. We have this horrific murderer who slaughtered his wife for having an affair, a demon that's been trying to kill Judy since the literal moment she was born, and then we have a doll that scribbles. Whatever though, I was kind of anticipating Annabelle to pop up, so it was expected. Giga Annabelle though? Nothing I think could have prepared me for that. This giant CGI face taking up the entire screen in the theater was very funny, and I was surprised to see people saying it was a tieback. Maybe it is, but unless I'm missing something, I'm pretty sure they were referring to this scene in Annabelle Creation where we see an actual actor contort as Annabelle, and we see her bones crack, and it's very creepy. At least creepy compared to what we got in this movie. I don't even really think that I would compare the scenes. An actor fully being able to contort their body is always going to be more interesting than edited balloony. We have what I've simply put as the stupid haunted mirror. I guess at least we know why the Smurl family has this mirror in their home. Annabelle just showed up. The mirror kind of made sense in connection to the Warrens, but it felt like they already had a script set with that concept and then had to somehow tie it to the Smurl family. I don't know, I guess I personally don't need to be told that the object has brought a demon into the home. I would have gone with the attachment to any number of people in that house. I also really don't understand the mirror because it wasn't the haunted object that the Warrens took back with them. It was, I think, like a random carousel music box. Now we're to the lack of a take two. This one is petty, but absolutely a standard I think that we can hold. The quote, second biggest global debut in history for a horror film behind only 2017's It. The main offender, in my opinion, was Lorraine's order at the restaurant. She says she would like to order the linguinis with clams.
I'll have the linguinis with clams, please.
The linguinis with clams.
And the second offender, a little less offensive to me, somehow, was Ben Hardy breaking out into his full English accent in the middle of a very tense, action-filled scene.
I'm going around the block, okay? Tonight!
At least here, the stakes seemed a little bit higher to reshoot, but can somebody please tell me why they couldn't reshoot once she said linguinis and clams? A hand on Judy's shoulder was too expensive for a second shot? That's what I'm supposed to believe here? I'd gone to the car and I was sitting there googling if fucking linguinis was a real word or not. And as far as I can tell, I'll spoil it for you guys, linguinis is in fact not a real word. Who would have thought? I really tried to give them the benefit of the doubt, if you can't tell. Another big pet peeve for me was Judy being apparently an idiot sandwich. This one genuinely pissed me off a bit. I don't remember Judy making careless decisions in any of the other Conjuring films, so it's just a little hard for me to get on board with this, especially seeing as they aged her up and made her less intelligent. I usually think criticizing the final girl based on her intelligence can lead us into some murky waters. But it's more so about Judy interpreting her natural intuition horribly. We're meant to believe that she's completely out of tune with her abilities, but also puts herself and others in harm's way because she feels things so deeply. Every time Judy tried to go off and do something herself, she caused problems for either the Warrens or the Smurls, so it was extra hard to care about her getting married off at the end and taking up even more screen time. And last on my list, I have the Warrens and their choice to not draw the line in regards to cases with sexual assault allegations. So this might be a hot take, an unpopular opinion, and I've admittedly been ignorant up into literally filming this video. I'm not gonna sit here and judge anybody, but I think my distaste for this film and this franchise now is layered. I'm not gonna sugarcoat things at this point. After watching this movie and knowing what I know about the Smurl case, I decided to do some more digging on cases that the Warrens have taken on. Surprise, surprise! Oh, so many of their cases have reported one, if not multiple, accounts of sexual misconduct. The girls themselves report sexual assault from a succubus in their house. Not trying to put this lightly, but Maurice Thorold, I think that's his name, the guy that the nun was based off of, yeah, back in 1972, he was convicted of child rape. The ones became involved with him during the late 1980s, by the way. Haunting in Connecticut, the movie I mentioned earlier, yeah, Philip Snedeker, I believe he's the sick boy that the movie was based off of. He attacked and attempted to sexually assault his cousin Tammy. And of course, the thought of possible continued child-on-child sexual assault is absolutely unthinkable. Funeral home employees participating in necromancy makes much more sense in my opinion. Unfortunately, I could keep going because I haven't even touched on the allegations against Ed Warren himself. Upon figuring all of this out though, I've decided to draw the line because the Warner Brothers won't. I don't necessarily think that sexual assault should be picked out of stories, these scary stories, to make them more palatable. I kind of just fall into the camp that they shouldn't have been touched at all. These real stories, these real abuse cases and allegations. I think personally Ed and Lorraine should have set that boundary a long time ago, and the people making money off of it now probably just should have gone back to the drawing board. So there we go. I doubt I'll watch the new series they just announced. I don't believe I'm gonna follow any more of the movies because, let's be honest, they're not done. I'm personally gonna think a little bit harder next time before I happily lap up inspired by true events horror films. It's not like I can watch all these films to clear my conscience, but I can recommend you don't go see it. At least you don't go pay to see it. Personally, I would recommend you leave it at the first two, maybe the spin-offs. You know, let yourself like the franchise. I know this video was negative and so is my last, but I am close to finishing a script for a movie I actually do like, and that is Bring Her Back. You can go watch that if you want to watch something good. I'm kind of just interested to see if I'm alone in my bitterness here, and if I am, I'm okay with that. I can't help that I didn't like it, you know, unfortunately for me, I guess.